Hello everybody, welcome to OCHD and welcome to another Jumputi Heroes video. I'm bringing you today hopefully the first in a few little videos in the lead up to Christmas, and I am hoping that on Christmas Day I can give you guys the yearly prediction bingo, but that's not what we're talking about today. Today we're talking about the fallout from the Jump Festa event that happened over the weekend. Obviously we knew that Jumputi Heroes was going to be at this event, and my prediction was that we would get basically no news, no rewards, and nothing from this event. I wasn't entirely correct there. We got some rewards in game. There was the daily stage. It gave some rewards. It gave some tickets from like recent events and stuff, which was pretty cool. And they have actually put a Unity battle on. I don't know if that's related. It doesn't seem to be related, but they have decided to put a Unity battle that was seemingly not scheduled before on. And while I'm not the biggest fan of the game mode at the moment, rewards have been quite dry. And that is actually a nice little source of rewards. There's some rubies in there. There's some full-size jewels in there. There's some hero jewels in there. I mean, it's pretty good. When times are tough, it's pretty good. But there was actually some real news from this. It wasn't actually from Jumputi in the booth. It wasn't actually from published in game or anything like that. It was from a GameBiz interview, which, to be fair, in the past, that has actually been a source of news around major events and stuff, because they like to give the Jumputi devs a quick interview and see what they're up to. And the Jumputi devs tend to like to give just a smidgen of information for us to go off of for the future of the game. And in this interview, they did actually give the people at GameBiz a preview of Roboco's special attack, ultimate attack animation. I still can't really work out if she's going to be limited or not. I don't think she really looks like a limited from this preview, but it's really hard to say just based off of this. And the animation is from, I would say, quite early in the series, so I don't really know what to make of it. But obviously they did say to us they were adding the series. We already knew it was coming. The only additional information about Roboco we got was these screenshots and the fact that the author had specifically requested that she be added to the game and that the series be added to the game, which is something that has happened in the past with some other series that have made their way into the game. Coming to my head at the moment, Inamaru Dashi, and now Tomatoi Poo Lycopen, which is going to be added at some point in the next year, and Hoken Shitsu Shinigami, which was added this year. So there is a precedent for authors saying, hey, add my series, but this is a bit of a unique situation because this is the first time we've had an ongoing weekly Shonen Jump series added to the game that did not begin before the game launched. So stuff like One Piece is ongoing in weekly Shonen Jump, but it started way before the game launched, so it's not strange to see it here. But any series that launched after Jumputi Heroes launched was seemingly, I don't know, out of bounds. We weren't allowed to use it or something. I don't know. It seemed obvious to use some of these series. I know the series you're thinking of. But no, they didn't do it. And Roboco is the first example of this. However, it's not going to be the only example. We have an excerpt from the interview here, and they specifically said there is a series planned for the future. This series, I've got these screenshots the wrong way around, but that's fine. This series is a series currently running in Weekly Shonen Jump, and the only information they're going to give us beyond that is that it will debut in its own feature festival. Now, as I recall, I can't think of a series that actually debuted with a feature festival. Even stuff like, say for example, Siren, we at least had Amamiya before the feature festival. With Buso Renkin, we at least had Kazuki Muto before the feature festival. maybe if we go back far enough, there might be one that's just eluding me that I don't exactly remember. There might be some that started with a smaller type of event, like even Kimetsu no Yaiba. I don't think it started with the Pooty feature. I think they launched Tanjiro first. So again, maybe take this with a grain of salt, simply because sometimes when they say stuff like this, they say, oh, we're going to launch with a feature festival, but maybe we'll drop one character first, actually. We've changed our mind, which may happen. They changed the schedule quite a lot, so whatever. But the promising thing is they have said a series currently running in Weekly Shonen Jump will be added to the game. Now, one of the first things I need to rule out is Chainsaw Man, because Chainsaw Man is not currently running in Weekly Shonen Jump. It is a Weekly Shonen Jump series that when it moved from part 1 to part 2, still considered the same series, still considered Chainsaw Man, but it is currently running in Shonen Jump Plus. And they've specifically said they're currently running Shonen Jump series, so that's not to say Chainsaw Man can't come, and I'm really hoping it does come, but as it stands, that's not what we're talking about here. Chainsaw Man kind of falls into the category of series like what's a good example? World Trigger was running in Weekly Shonen Jump, and then it moved over to Jump Square, but it's still considered a Weekly Shonen Jump series. We still got it added to the game. It's just currently being published in another magazine. The only difference between something like World Trigger and something like Chainsaw Man is that Chainsaw Man launched after Jumputi Heroes started, and World Trigger started before Jumputi Heroes started. So hopefully we do see Chainsaw Man. Hopefully this is a sign that Chainsaw Man will come at some point. But there are some actually other series we need to talk about. To start, let's get all of them up on the board. This is all of the series currently running in Weekly Shonen Jump. Now, there are a few in here that are a little bit wishy-washy. For example, Burn the Witch. Burn the Witch is a series that on... I think on the Japanese wiki it says initial run and it says it's ended. But on the English wiki it says ongoing but like intermittent or whatever. Both of which are technically true. A part 2 for the series has been announced, but that was a while ago now, and still we haven't seen anything of it as far as I'm aware. I've had a little peek around, I've had a little look around. As far as I'm aware, we don't know what's happening with that. So does it count? I maybe not, but first things first, let's get rid of the series that are already in Jumputi, because they're not part of this conversation, really. They cannot be the mystery series that they have said will be added to the game from the ongoing series. So, Hunter x Hunter is gone. Me and Roboco technically hasn't been added yet, but we know is going to be added, so is gone. One Piece is gone. My Hero Academia is gone, and Black Clover is gone. So that's a good start. We've ironed out a few options to get us started, and obviously we will talk about some of the big competitors when we get to them. But I would say there are still some series in here that probably aren't very likely. For example, I would say there is probably only one series that has launched in 2022 that you could make an argument for saying that they had enough content to make a feature festival. And I would say that is Akane Banashi. I think that's the only one from 2022 that has near enough content to make a feature festival. Feature festivals, you need a decent amount of stuff to work with, and you kind of don't want to be working with characters that are later going to be considered an old throwaway part of the story. You don't want to force them in. You know, we need at least 8 characters who have a prominent role in the series that you have enough content to work with to make the special animations for and the cut-ins and everything. So stuff like Cypher Academy, it's got like, what, 5 chapters? So that's out. Same with Fabricant 100. Glunkang, I think it's pronounced Runa. is... It has a bit more content, to be fair, but still not enough. Ichigoki, I can't remember the full title. Ichigoki is under control or something. Is gone. Ruri Dragon, unfortunately, has gone on hiatus, and I think it's such a popular series. People love it so much, and sadly, the author has had to put the series on hiatus. Obviously, always prioritize real life rather than trying to push the manga out at the expense of your own health. So that's fine, but I think in this case, yeah, there's not enough content to make a feature festival, so not going to be considered here. Tokyo Demon Bride Story might have enough content. I didn't really think it was that popular. Maybe it is, I don't know, but it's not. I don't think it's a concrete option, so I'm going to get rid of it. Ichinose, I think it's Deadly Family Sins. I don't remember the exact title, but the series is going to be quite popular, I think. It's already started off very strongly, but it's not enough content for a feature festival, so that's gone. So that just leaves Akane Banashi from 2022, and to be honest, I think I'm going to rule it out, simply because I don't think we're quite there yet in terms of making a feature festival. Like, you have to come up with at least one limited. Most feature festivals have 2 limiteds. That's going to be tough. You need at least one standard gacha, probably ideally a couple of standard gacha, and a bunch of event units. There's probably enough content, but it's a stretch if you ask me. So I'm going to rule it out. And that leaves us with an interesting selection of series. I know some people will be pointing to certain ones as obvious choices, but I would argue that any of these series, there is a possibility. I think I'm going to rule out Burn the Witch, because I would not consider it to be a series currently running in Jump, because it hasn't had a chapter in Jump in ages. So I'm going to take it out. Quite a lot of picks here. And I would argue any of these series have enough content at this point to make a feature festival. Admittedly, some of these picks are stronger than others. We'll talk about the biggest one first, of course, Jujutsu Kaisen. Out of all of these, Jujutsu Kaisen is probably the one most people would argue is the most likely. The devs have been hounded about this series. Every time there's a feature festival, I'm certain, even though they didn't say it, they must have had so many people coming up to them during the Jump Festa booth like, yo, where's Jujutsu Kaisen, bro? When you adding Jujutsu Kaisen? We need Jujutsu Kaisen. It's everywhere. Anytime they post anything, if you look on Twitter, you look in the replies, if you look on YouTube, you look in the comments, Jujutsu Kaisen. People want to see this series. I honestly am really surprised we haven't had it yet. Obviously, there are certain circumstances that we've discussed that might be the reason for that. But as we're coming up to the 55th anniversary of Weekly Shonen Jump, and we have Roboco being added to the game, any of the things that might have prevented the series from being added, I feel like we can't really see those anymore. Unless the author literally said, I don't want my characters in your game, in which case, fair enough. But I don't think that's the case. I mean, if you've seen some of the crossovers Jujutsu Kaisen's done with other stuff, what was that one? It was like Ninjala or whatever. That's crazy. When I saw the animations and stuff like that, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe anyone signed off on that. But apparently, games like doing crossovers. That game likes doing crossovers with a lot of series, and people seem to sign off on that. So, I think that's probably the top candidate. I think Jujutsu Kaisen is probably the top candidate. And is there enough content for a feature festival? Obviously, there is enough. There's easily enough for 2, maybe 3, depending on if you include 0. And I don't know why you wouldn't include 0. So there's enough content. Trust me. There's enough content for multiple different limiters. There's enough content for potentially a Muso candidate. Like, yeah, there's enough content. Let's talk about some of the slightly less high-profile picks. Something like High School Family. Now, I don't actually think it's going to be High School Family. And I know that when Roboco got announced, it was one of those things that sort of divided opinions because obviously a lot of people are looking forward to Jujutsu Kaisen. It's not been added. Chainsaw Man, it's not been added. And Roboco is a gag manga. And a lot of people were probably hoping for one of the more high-profile battle manga. So it's a bit of a tricky situation if you're going to announce something like that when people are expecting other stuff. So I think it would be absolutely nuts to announce High School Family getting a feature festival before any of these other big series we've mentioned. I don't think it's going to be the series selected, but if it was, I kind of get it. There is definitely enough content for a feature festival. It must be popular, because even though I read it and I think it's like, I mean, it's mid. Like, when we use the term mid, sometimes we use mid to mean trash, but I mean, in terms of a mediocre gag manga, I would say that's pretty bang on for what this series is. It doesn't go too crazy, but it's still like a little bit outlandish. And I don't know, it must be popular because it's still going. It's still going. And I like the series. I don't love it, but it's okay. It's a fine series. If it did get a feature festival, I might be tempted to pull. It does also have the bonus that it is a series made by an author that already has a series in the game. The author that made this made Isobe Monogatari. And that only got one character. So maybe that's some kind of thing where he said, oh, please add my new series because there's so much more content to work with. It's possible, but I really feel like that would be not the best choice. Now, to be fair, just because they only currently have one more series planned, that's not to say that we couldn't get more. That's not to say that there aren't more series in the future. That it hasn't fully been confirmed yet, but it's something that they're thinking about doing at some point. If that is the case, I would argue everything on the board here has done enough to get into the game. Whether they've done enough to get a feature festival, that's debatable. But 100% they've done enough to get into the game. But I am going to, for now, discount High School Family. It hurts, man. It hurts. Then, from some of these series, some of these have anime announced already. Some of them have anime already going. And some of them don't. And I would say P6 or PPP is really apparently there's like an actual way to say that in a musical term, but when I looked it up that was even harder to pronounce, so we're gonna go with P6. It's a pretty nice little series. The artwork is fantastic. I would love to see the sprites of the characters in the Jumputi style, especially this series, and I would say Mission Yozakura Family. They have the bonus of the characters being very, very colourful and having very distinctive designs within the main cast. I think that lends itself very well to something like Jumputi. It's like bright colours, and especially in the case of P6, like quite outlandish designs for the characters. I'd really like to see them added at some point, but I don't think it's high enough priority right now. I think of the series we've got here, it's going to be quite low down the pecking order. So I'm going to, for now, withdraw it, but 100% is something that I would like to see in Jumputi at some point. Next, I think we're going to talk about Elusive Samurai. Elusive Samurai has, again, the bonus that it is a series made by a creator that already has a series in the game. In this case, already has 2 series in the game. The creator, Matsui, who made Assassination Classroom and made Neuro, which, to be fair, between the 2 of them, the amount of content they've gotten is not that bad. Individually, you would argue, it's not been great. It's really not been great. Now, unfortunately, I am mostly up to date with all of these series, but Elusive Samurai is one that I ended up dropping because it was just so ridiculously dense with like the historical plot points leading back to actual Japanese history, but obviously this is their twist on it. And while that's not bad, it just it bogged down the reading a little bit, and I can't remember how far I got in. I think I was like a good 20 to 30 chapters in, maybe more, and I just I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it anymore. The art is amazing, especially the color pages look incredible. But yeah, I don't know. I think I'd rather have more content from Assassination Classroom and from Neuro before we started focusing on this. But that's not to say I'd be disappointed if it did get added, but it's certainly not one of my top picks to get added. So I'm just gonna take that off. Let's talk about Blue Box. It's a romance series, and I would argue I'm mostly up to date with it, and I really don't feel like there's maybe at a stretch enough content for a feature festival, but I don't think we're quite there yet, which is weird because it's been going on for a little while now. But like, when I think really hard, like, who would be the limit exactly? How would that work? I guess they don't have to have a limit. Have there been feature festivals in the past with no limited? I'm really trying to think and I'm struggling. But like, you could, okay, assuming it's just a one limited event, who would it be? I don't even know. I know it's trickier with like romance series, so maybe you'd have to use like a key moment from the series. Like maybe there was like the Sleeping Beauty scene. Maybe you could use that. I don't know. But yeah, that's a really tough one. I personally do not believe it would be easy to make a feature festival out of Blue Box. I do like the series. I'd love to see it added, but maybe just in an event. Maybe not a feature festival. Just throw in one or two characters here and there. So I'm going to remove it, but just know that that's not because I dislike the series. It's just because I don't really see it happening. So we are down to 6 series here. I believe all of the series here either have an anime or have an anime announced, and it will be coming out at some point. So we're definitely looking at the top candidates here. I personally, I don't know if this is a controversial opinion. It might be a controversial opinion. I don't know. Mashal just got an anime released, which is cool, and hopefully the anime executes some of the ideas maybe a little bit better than the manga does. Because truth be told, I at a certain point just stopped enjoying it. I'm still reading it because we're almost at the end, and I want to see how it ends, even though I kind of know how it's going to end, I think. But I really feel like the back half of that story is not great. It's really not great. I think they kind of did the One Punch Man thing, where it's like the main character is insanely powerful, but it's more of a gag battle manga than it is a battle manga, so it's fine, sort of thing. But the gag, for me, got old quite quickly. And we really didn't spend enough time fleshing out the side characters for me to care enough, now that they're being pushed to the front of the story. And now that we've got to the point where they're no longer being pushed to the front and we're now going to see MASH doing something again, I'm not bothered, to be honest. I just want to see how it ends, that's it. So I think this series must have had enough popularity to get an anime, so it must be considered quite a good series in the eyes of Japanese fans. I don't know, but for me, I could definitely see it being added as a feature festival. I just wouldn't care. I don't think I would care. You could definitely see limited characters being chosen. You could definitely see standard gacha characters being chosen, event characters. There's plenty of content, and content that works very well at those, to play the specific roles. But for me, it's a no. So now, 5 series remain. And I would say, yeah, any of these 5. It could genuinely be any of these 5. Obviously, Jujutsu Kaisen would be the first pick. But ruling that out, let's say Akutami Sensei just said, no, you can't have my series. It's not allowed. Hypothetically, that leaves us with these 4 series around it. And out of these, like, if any of them got a feature festival, I'd be absolutely delighted. Obviously, I wouldn't like to see certain ones at the expense of others. Like, say, for example, Witch Watch. I actually quite enjoy Witch Watch, you know, and I believe it's Shinohara Sensei made Sket Dance before this. Sket Dance actually has a feature festival at some point, or some kind of event at some point, coming up this year. So it's not that much of a logical leap to say maybe Witch Watch will be added as well. And yeah, it definitely has enough content to make a feature festival. It's got a lot of very distinct characters. Like, yeah, I'd be happy for it to have a feature festival, but would I be happy for it to have a feature festival at the expense of the other 4 on the board right now? The answer is probably no, but I would totally get it. I would totally understand. But personally for me, I think if I was going to add it, I'd add it a few characters at a time. I probably wouldn't do a feature festival, so... you know what, I will drop Witch Watch. I wasn't going to, but you know what, I'll drop it out from the list. So we got 4 left. I don't want to say... I do like Sakamoto Days, but for me, for a feature festival, I don't think I would want it to get a feature festival over any of the other 3 series here. I think I prefer the other 3 series to get a feature festival in Jumputi. Absolutely, at some point, add Sakamoto. Absolutely, add more content from the series later, and maybe eventually give it a feature festival. But if you told me next year only one of these 4 series can have a feature festival, I wouldn't pick Sakamoto Days. I think you all know I would pick Jujutsu Kaisen, but assuming I wasn't picking Jujutsu Kaisen, I wouldn't pick Sakamoto Days either. I'm gonna rule it out. I'm gonna rule it out. We got 3 series left. For me, these are the 3. I know I cut it down before, but this is the final 3. I think I would not be surprised if any of these 3 got a feature festival. I would not be upset if any of these 3 got a feature festival at the expense of the others. Admittedly, I know a lot of people would be. But, I mean, for example, Undead Unluck. If you have not read Undead Unluck by this point, and that's not that strange a thing, because I think a lot of people read the first chapter and there were certain elements they were not a fan of, give it another go. Give it another go, because I genuinely believe this is one of the best things currently being published in Jump. Incredible manga. And if this got a feature festival, I would be gassed. I would be absolutely delighted, and I would definitely be pulling. Same for Yozakura Family. I don't rate it as highly as Undead Unluck, but I think in terms of the content that is there, turning that into a feature festival, I think this series would work so well. As I mentioned with P6, so many different characters with very distinct designs, especially the color being used on each character. This is a very colorful set of protagonists, and I think it would just pop a lot in Jumputi Heroes. I think it would look very cool. I think there are obvious choices for limiteds. I think there are obvious choices for standard gacha and event units. And if you dropped like a Mission Yozakura Family feature festival and it had like all of the main siblings added, yes, absolutely, I am 100% down. And I hope they do that at some point. No, I don't think it would be this year. I think for me, it's going to be Jujutsu Kaisen. It has to be Jujutsu Kaisen. If it's not Jujutsu Kaisen, these devs are off their head. That being said, we have already established that these devs are off their head. This is not the first time. This has happened many times before. And I mean, I think 1010 was a breaking point for a lot of people. Look, the fact that we're getting new series, I'm very happy about it. We're getting a lot of new series next year. I mean, I made a video before talking about the sheer number of series being added in 2023, already eclipsing any year before it, except for 2018, which is when the game launched. And now we're getting another new series this year. So I am very excited. And I hope, for the sake of the game and for the sake of the fans, that it is Jujutsu Kaisen. But these other two series I've got on the board here, I really hope these are in the plans for the near future. And it's not to say that these series couldn't be added as like one-offs rather than feature festivals, and then later they get a feature festival. But at the moment, the only one we know that they have planned is they said it's going to have a feature festival, and I think it just makes sense to be Jujutsu Kaisen. I've always said I would personally start with 0, but if they don't, then that's fine too, because the entire series is very good. It just does make sense. But please, I know no devs are watching this, but on the off chance the Fuji P is on his lunch break and he saw me upload, and out of sheer spite he came into my video and he watched the entire thing and somehow understands everything, even I'm speaking in English, please consider adding Undead Unluck at some point. I'm here, I'm waiting. It doesn't have to be right away. I'm patient. I've been here for almost 5 years now. Just at some point, please take it into consideration. But yes, ultimately, my final pick for what I believe it will be this year, and I think you all knew that coming into this video, is Jujutsu Kaisen. And I look forward to it. Whenever it does come, I look forward to it. And hopefully that can reinvigorate a lot of the fans that they've lost. There's been a lot of bad faith recently. And maybe the last 6 months or so, it's been very bad. And it's just seemingly been getting worse. I'm hoping they plan to turn things around at some point, and this would be one big step towards doing that. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you all next time.